Good afternoon. Welcome to the January 5th, 2021 meeting of the Town Council Charter Review Committee. In accordance with Massachusetts general law, this meeting is being videotaped and audio recorded, as well as being remotely broadcasted via Zoom webinar. If there is anyone in our viewing audience who is taping this meeting, would you please announce yourself? Seeing and hearing none, I understand that Dr. Phil Adams will be taking minutes today.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We have before us minutes of the December 22nd, 2020 meeting. Do I hear a motion to?
I move we approve.
By Marilyn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Bill or Phil, take your pick for the second.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? Bill Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Marilyn Richards,
Yes.
Ralph Page,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes.
Tom Christensen.
Yes.
Those are approved. All right. We have minutes of the meeting of December 29th, 2020. Do I hear a motion to accept?
So moved.
Motion to accept.
Bill the second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, Bill Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Marilyn Richards,
Yes.
Ralph Page,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes.
Tom Christensen.
Yes.
That is approved. And now we are going back to the suggestions received from Kathy Hill. We are starting on her fifth suggestion, but before we get there, I did speak with her yesterday on her second suggestion, which included adding town clerk and clerk of the council. She had in fact been using an older version of the town charter, and as a result, we can remove that suggestion because that had already been included.
And that's what we suspected last week.
Right.
Yes, sir. So the next suggestion, her number 5, is Article 7, Section 1. And Article 7 is town elections. And Section 1, she's asking to revisit paragraph 2 for intent. On the 5th Tuesday preceding every regular general town election, there shall be a preliminary election for the purpose of nominating candidates. Someone help me understand what her suggestion is. Or is she merely asking what was the intent was?
I think she's asking what the intent was. And if I remember right, Larry, that was just to reduce it down to no more than 2 people per seat. So if there was,
Correct.
let's say, 3 people, 4 people running, you take a preliminary election and you narrow it down so that there's 2 candidates per seat available.
And if I recall, the following section specifically on the preliminary election does speak, it might not even be necessary.
Right.
Larry,
Yes,
Well,
Bill.
I'm interpreting it that she's asking why the 5th Tuesday and not the 4th, 3rd, or I think that's what she's got, because she said on the 5th in question marks. So I'm wondering whether she's asking why the 5th Tuesday, where that came from. I
Or
think,
is it just clarification?
You count back 5 Tuesdays from the
Yeah.
Right.
general election.
yeah, I
Right.
understand it. I'm just wondering why
Oh,
the
right.
5.
We, if I recollect, we did discuss and just thought that was a reasonable period of time from preliminary to general election where candidates who you narrowed down the candidates had a sufficient time to campaign for the general election.
Correct.
Does that sound right, Ralph?
Yeah.
Jeannie, what do you think?
We also need time to get the ballots printed with the right names on there, so we needed time for that too.
So does this work?
It's worked.
Ralph, you look puzzled.
Well, no, I'm thinking, wasn't there something involved in the state requiring a certain length of time between a primary election and if I remember right, there was something involved in that there was a length of time period that was needed.
Yeah, I seem to recall that too, Ralph.
Jeannie, does that ring a bell?
It does ring a bell because I was doing the election calendar for this year and I did a look at that. I think there's I can look at it and report
Okay,
that
if
the
you
next meeting.
can.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just bring up something?
Sure.
While we're on this, I was not at this meeting and I wanted to talk about having that the drawing by lot of the candidates. Now, I don't know if that was put in there originally because there was like over 40 candidates or something for town council for that first election. But when we have 2 or 3 candidates, it's kind of a pain to do that. So do you know what if this is necessary anymore to be in there?
The order in which candidates.
Yeah.
Explain to us why it's a pain.
Well, it has to be a public hearing. It has to be publicized. It has to be an open meeting. So we have to, we have to have it open so people can act. And it's kind of comical how we do it. We've tried to have like a box with names in it. We've got a bingo roller from the COA one time. There's no real slick way to do it. And I don't know why it's there in the first place, especially if it's only a few candidates. It's only school committee and town council.
I think the argument when we did the charter was because in the old way, I think the incumbent was always first.
Yeah.
And then we talked about going alphabetically and that nobody was in favor of that. So then the lottery thing came up. So I think that's how it evolved.
Okay.
But if it's a pain, I'm sure we can rework it.
Yeah, it's a pain, but we do it. But I just don't know what the logic is when
I think because we couldn't come to a general consensus on how to do it, that
okay.
everybody kind of felt, well, a lottery is the most fair way. Because like I said, in the past, the incumbent would be listed first and then all the other candidates or whatever.
So I've got a question. Jeannie, why has it got to be a public hearing?
It has to
just-
be an open meeting. That's the way Tom Florence did it, and
Oh,
But it's not a
see
meeting.
how it's being drawn.
It's not a meeting. It's simply the town clerk drawing the names, but
Right,
the public, it has to be open so that anyone can view it.
right.
Right.
But
Right.
it's not
It's
really an open meeting. There's no
No,
meeting, there's no body or anything.
I'd say it's a public event then, not an open meeting, but it has to be publicized and open to the public.
I think it has to be an open meeting. Well, the way we worded an open meeting, it has to be posted, even if it's merely the town clerk.
Right,
And so it has to be posted so that people know that they can come and view it. And there's transparency. I think that's why we did that.
okay. So I didn't know if it was because there were so many candidates for the very first one, if that's why it was put in there. But if
I
it,
don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
We
think
did
so.
the Charter before the number of candidates, right?
Yeah, we didn't know at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
okay,
all right,
thank you.
all right. Well, so on that particular suggestion, 5, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll let her know our thoughts, but no action there. On number 6, which is Article 7, Section 3B and C, which speaks about the preliminary election. Paragraph requires rewording to make less confusion and attention paid to proper use of commas where appropriate. This is one we'd have to ask her. I mean, what
Yeah.
we're describing. I don't want to guess. Jeannie, you see confusion in the way you administer this?
It is confusing. But I think there might be a mass general law for this one too.
Shall I contact her about either explaining what she's interested in or inviting her in?
I was going to suggest, why don't we invite her in, and we don't have to keep her for the whole meeting, but
Okay.
she can kind of explain what she's looking for. I think that would be beneficial.
Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to go up against Kathy in a grammar contest, that's for sure.
That's true.
Um, Our next suggestion is number 7, which has to deal with Article 8, Section 1. And this is the section on citizen relief mechanisms. And Section 1 is on the general conditions. And she is suggesting, consider this wording. Signatures to any petition can be on multiple papers, but all papers pertaining to the same petition shall be fastened together and filed as a single instrument with the name, address, and signature of the person designated as filing the papers, period. Every signature on the petition shall include the printed name and complete address of the sign.
I agree with that.
Now, when I reviewed this, I wrote down that I like that wording too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it means the same thing, but it's clear. And she's adding the word printed, which is very helpful on my end.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would be replacing with her suggestion, probably all in Section 1.
Yes.
Okay. So do I hear any other discussion, or do I hear a motion? Who has her hand up? Marilyn.
I move that we take the suggested wording for Article 8, Section 1, as written by Counselor Kathleen Hill.
Would you also include the deletion of the present language in Section 1?
To include the deletion of language in Section 1.
Delete and include and replace. And is there a second?
Second.
Was that Phil?
Yes, sir.
With any discussion?
So Larry,
Yes.
I'm just reading her wording real quick. Signatures to any petition can be on multiple papers. Signatures to a petition or on a petition. Is she talking about the multiple signatures that are being gathered?
Ralph, I think she took the exact wording from the charter.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, I know. And I'm just thinking if we're going to be changing it, that was one of the wordings.
Yeah, I know what it says. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't,
Okay. I'm good with it then.
Okay.
If Marilyn says it's okay, I'm good with it.
Wow.
Any other discussion? All right, so we have the motion that's been seconded. All those in favor? Bill Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Marilyn Richards,
Yes.
Ralph Page,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes.
Tom Christensen.
Yes.
Give me a second. Okay.
So Larry, can I
Yep.
take the floor for 2 seconds?
Absolutely.
Kathy did a great job with the wording on that. If she could do the same wording on the previous one, that would be awesome with the commas and all.
But we don't know if it's merely grammatical.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that.
But that, right, that's what I was saying. I mean, if she wanted to list it out like that, it would make it easier if she can't come in.
Okay,
Hey, this is what I'm thinking.
okay,
Just a thought, that's all.
good thought. Okay. Our next suggestion, which is her number 8, is section 8, section 3D, which is entitled Action on Petition. If the town council or the school committee fails to act within 30 days following the date the measure is returned to it, the measure shall be deemed to have been rejected. And that's,
I think she thinks it's redundant.
Kind of is.
the town council or school committee fails to act within 30 days following the date the measure is returned to it, the measure should be deemed to have been rejected. Okay. Is it redundant?
Is it your interpretation that she's just replacing the first sentence, or is she replacing the
Oh,
entire?
no. There's a sentence, the third sentence of that section.
Yeah,
That's what she's
I think what she's doing, Larry, is she wants to get rid of at the expiration of 30 days to that sentence.
At the end of that sentence.
And she just
That's
wants
the
to
way
end it, have been rejected, period.
Yeah, because 30 days is mentioned earlier in the sentence.
Right.
Correct.
So
It's
it is
kinda
repetitive.
redundant.
Well, and one could make an argument, is the last phrase within 30 days, or at the expiration of 30 days, is it 30 days after the first 30 days? Or immediately there at the end of the initial 30 days?
Yeah.
I hate to sound like a lawyer. But if the intent is that if not acted on the 30 days, it's automatically rejected, then I agree you would remove that last phrase. So is there a motion on the floor? Yeah, Jeff, is that you?
Yeah, I'm not making a motion, but in rereading it, I kind of see why it's there.
Tell us.
Because it's saying, if the committee fails to act within 30 days following the date of the measure, it is returned. The measure shall be deemed to have been rejected at the expiration of the 30 days. In other words, it's at one point it's saying if they fail to act within 30 days, and then in the second one, it's saying it's rejected at the end of that 30-day period.
Right,
It's like,
Yeah.
it's not redundant. It's like two different meanings.
right. And then in the following section, it talks about within 60 days following the date it's been rejected. So you do need that date, I think, what Jeff is saying.
So, Madam Clerk, how do you interpret the second rejected at the expiration of 30 days? What would be the 30 days in that?
Well, so say that they receive it on January 1st,
Uh-huh.
and they haven't acted on it until January 30th, and that's the rejection date.
Okay, so January 31st it's been rejected if they
Yeah,
didn't.
that's the expiration date. And then you'd have to go to that section E within 60 days of the
Okay.
date it's been rejected. So I think you need that. I think you need that in there.
Okay.
I think we should keep it in.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Good catch, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually had this happen.
Say it again?
We actually had this happen.
Oh, okay.
A petition come up where I had to follow all these
Yeah.
Okay.
steps. So,
So I hear the sentiment is to leave it the way it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Our next suggestion is the following section, which talks about supplemental petitions. Consider using a different word for sufficient. The word is vague and open to interpretation. Okay. Oh, I see. And that's towards the end of section E, about 4 lines up from the end.
Yeah.
If the number of signatures to the supplemental petition is found to be sufficient by the town clerk.
In the next line, they also use the word sufficient.
Sufficient, yeah.
Why is it vague? Because prior it talks about how many signatures are needed. Because it says the initial petition plus the supplemental have to have a total of 500 voters. And then Madam Clerk would determine whether you've reached that 500 votes. Or, yes, Bill.
Or is it registered voters? Is the sufficient mean registered voters? That's the way I'm interpreting it. The number's one, the registered voters is a different thing.
Well, voters
Voters means
are
registered.
defined, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes.
They are.
But in a petition, you don't know, not everybody's a registered voter that signs nomination papers.
Right.
So Jeannie would have to check the voting list.
Correct.
right. So,
Okay.
so sufficient appears more than once in that sentence.
Uh-huh.
Right.
I think when it says the number of signatures is found to be sufficient, I think that's correct. But later on, when it says to appear on the ballot of the next annual town election, provided such petition is found sufficient, I think that verbiage can be changed to improper form. Because that's the wording that's used when it's referred to the town attorney, how the town attorney has to deem the petition in proper form before it moves along. So I don't know if you want to mirror those same words when you talk about the petition. When you talk about signatures, you're saying sufficient. Is that confusing everybody?
So you would remove the word sufficient, the second sufficient,
Right,
put in proper form.
right.
Will that confuse people? Because they don't know what that means.
Well, it's already referred to in proper form in section B.
No, I know that.
But in order for it to even go out for the additional vote getting and all, it already had to be in sufficient form.
Right,
Right.
in proper form.
And
Proper
a sufficient form merely referring to the actual petition rather than the signatures.
It's talking about the measure when it talks about the town attorney, but when I worked with Jesse on this, it was like the whole ball of wax. It was how it was prepared, how it was submitted, what the measure talked about. For instance, it wasn't in proper form the first time because they referred to Board of Selectmen. So it's like things like that. It's like every part of the petition was looked at to see if it was in proper form.
And I think this paragraph here is basically only discussing the signatures because you've already made sure it's in proper form, everything's good to go.
Mhm.
Now, this paragraph is then just talking about the signatures and that they were all collected, they were all submitted properly,
Right.
the correct number of them. So I think that's why the wording was adjusted to sufficient here.
I think the second sufficient should be changed to something else, so it's not proper form, something else.
I think the second sufficient is just echoing the first one and saying it as long as it's found sufficient 60 days prior. So it's saying the same thing.
Same
So if
thing.
you change one, you'd change them both.
Yeah.
And sufficient means adequate. I mean, I see no problem with the word.
Right.
Any other
I think
comments?
it's vague.
Would it help in the first sufficient to eliminate that word and say if the number of signatures to the supplemental petition is found to be sufficiently certified or certified by the town clerk? I mean, is that the action that we want to confirm in that part of the sentence? That this, it's the signatures that are accepted?
Well,
Well,
pretty
that-
much.
Yeah, I mean, that's what that's why only the clerk can do it. Once
That's right.
she's the one that
Yeah.
deems them sufficient.
Right.
So if Jeannie understands what's going on, then let's just move on.
Well, yeah.
Maybe valid or something like that, but something more concrete. I don't know.
Personally, I think
Meets
both,
requirements of this section.
Jeff was going to say something.
I think the wording the way it is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
agree.
I agree.
Well, if we're struggling to find other words, that's probably right.
Why?
Well, then I think that's what we're trying to do.
Why?
Yeah.
If it's working.
Right.
Okay.
Any motions on the floor?
No action.
Okay, sir.
Second.
Good? Everyone good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Our next suggestion, which is her last one, is on Article 8, Section 4A, which is titled Citizen Referendum Procedures. Consider rewording this paragraph to make wording more concise. And my comment that I wrote down was ask how. So
Maybe we can invite her when we ask the other one, we can ask this one.
Yep.
When we ask number 6, we can ask number 10.
Yep. Okay. Yes, kind of thing. Okay. Okay. That concludes Ms. Hill's suggestions. And then I think our next one may be from a guy named Ralph Page. Does that sound right?
It might be. Larry, I had printed out a copy that has yellow highlighting on it, and it doesn't have it from who or any. Does anyone know?
Yellow?
It had to do with administrative organization, Article 5. It's all highlighted in yellow, but I'm not sure which,
Is that,
where it went from or to or anything.
can you see this, Ralph? Is this it?
I can't really see it, Larry, sorry.
It's Article 3, Section 2, number 5.
That's what I have.
Is that what we're looking at? Or I have another one of yours.
No, this wasn't mine. This was submitted by someone. And I printed it out. It's 3 pages long. But it really highlighted Article 5, administrative organization, the town agencies and all. I'm just not
When-
sure.
I don't think we have a copy of that.
No, we don't.
No. Ralph?
It might have gone just to you, Ralph.
It's, I don't have a list of who it was from or anything or what they wanted. It was just Article 5 was highlighted. And I'm like, I don't know where it is. I figured, Larry, you knew, so I would ask you, but let's put that on the back burner.
Did they make suggestions?
There's no suggestions. It's just that whole article's highlighted.
Well, that's good.
Anonymous.
Is it
Yeah.
every word of the article is highlighted?
Every single word is highlighted.
So I guess we're supposed to change it.
Oh, we need Karnak.
Yeah, there you go.
If we don't know who it's from, then we can't act.
Well, that answered my question that we don't know who it's from, so.
Okay,
And you were the only one that got it.
all right. So
I feel privileged.
you
Yeah, there you go.
you did submit 2 other items.
I got this, that Article 3 that Larry had, but it doesn't say who it's from.
It's from Larry. I mean,
That's
it's
from Ralph.
It's from Ralph.
Oh,
Article 2, Section 6.
Oh, Article 3, Section 2, Number 5.
There were 2 different ones that Ralph submitted to us.
Oh,
That's one of them, Phil.
So why don't we start with that one?
Okay. And let me read that from Mr. Page. And let's first go to Article 3, Section 2. And Article 3 is on the town manager. Section 2 is powers and duties. And subsection number 5 is, and we've already addressed this, believe it or not.
So Larry, with that, Michael Kane at the end of the meeting had suggested that possibly we reword something and add stipends in to make
Right.
sure that,
Right.
in other words, if someone's pay doesn't increase by 10%, but the town manager gives them a 15% stipend,
Yep.
that's not separate. I wasn't sure if it was needed, so after compensation, I just put comma, including stipends.
Okay.
I would assume compensation would cover any type of monetary increase.
But it can't hurt to put stipends in there as well.
Why don't we say this, if I can suggest, including but not limited to stipends,
Right.
compensation.
there's got to be a reason why they added stipends. Apparently, we must have had a problem in the past.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's a way to get around a contract.
Oh,
I don't think you can put it in the first sentence. I think you'd have to put it in the sentence that we approve. Because the sentence we approved talked about any increase for any town employee in any fiscal year. Can I read you back what we approved?
yeah. Where are you reading that from, Larry?
This is what we approved on, I don't have the date, Phil, I'd have to look at the minutes.
Oh, I mean, what article is it? Is this?
Oh, this is
Still
Article
the same.
3,
I think September,
Section 2, number
Number
5.
Oh, okay. So we changed the wording already?
Yeah, the wording was already in existence, read, shall fix the compensation of all town employees appointed by the town manager within the limits established by existing appropriations, period.
Yeah.
We added the following. Notwithstanding, comma, any increase for any town employee exceeding 10% in any fiscal year shall require approval by town council. So, Ralph, if I could suggest, you'd have to either amend or just motion to add to that particular sentence. Any increase for any town employee in compensation, comma, including but not limited to stipends, comma, exceeding 10%, the rest of the sentence remains the same. Or you can put it any place in that second sentence, because that second sentence really talks about changing it during the year.
Yeah,
But we're just trying to put down including stipends, right?
Right.
That's all we're trying to add that in.
All right, so you could put down for notwithstanding any increase for any town employee of compensation or stipends exceeding 10% in any fiscal year shall require approval by town council.
That sounds good.
Short and sweet.
Say it again?
Short and sweet.
Yeah, just repeat it again, Larry.
Okay, so the motion would be to insert the words increase for any town employee. I've got to make a note. The insertion would be in compensation or stipends. Well, now I'm differing with myself, because if I'm paid $20,000 a year, my compensation, and I have 0 stipends, and now a stipend is to be given, that's not an increase. Well, it could be an increase of 0.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not saying you can't give the stipend during the normal process of establishing the appropriation for that position. It's after it's fixed, after,
Right.
the amount is settled, and then all of a sudden a $15,000 stipend shows its face.
And I think that's what happened in the past.
Right,
It was after the fact.
right,
And that's what this is preventing,
right.
hopefully.
Ralph, where are we?
lost.
Well, you've got to reword it to the point where you get in the stipends with the compensation, not to increase the 10%.
All right, but so let's look at this. If I get 20 grand a year and the town manager wants to give me a $4,000 stipend, do we
Got to be
have
approved by the council.
that? It would have to be approved because it's more than 10% of the compensation I'm being paid.
Right.
You can call it whatever you want, but it's more than 10% of what compensation I've been receiving.
Correct.
And I think that's across the board whenever it happens, because Phil pointed out most union contracts and all, 2-3% increase. 10% is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of leeway.
Most contracts are between, and I mean, 2% is going away now. So, I mean, we've kind of pulled the reins back on these.
Bill, when's the last time you've seen a 10% raise for teachers?
Oh, God, not in my time.
Yeah. I mean, that 10%.
I
is
see more
way
zeros
out.
and ones now.
Yeah, that 10% is way out there, but we're thinking 10 years. So
Right.
we've got to.
Right.
So I have another suggestion. I think you have to fix the first sentence to read, shall fix the compensation, comma, including but not limited to stipends, comma, of all town employees appointed by the town manager within the limits established by existing appropriations, period. Notwithstanding, comma, any increase for any town employee in compensation or stipends exceeding 10% in any fiscal year shall require approval by town council. So you have to have two, because you have to give her the power to do it initially, and then you have to limit how much she can increase either one by.
Or
Larry,
bring it to the town council.
What's that?
Or bring it to the town council for approval.
Right.
Well,
Only if it goes over 10%.
it would be
Right.
required, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ralph, is everyone, go ahead.
I would make a motion to approve the language that you just read.
And I'll second that.
Okay, let me read it again so everyone's clear. Number 5, and this is powers and duties of the town manager, shall fix the compensation, comma, including but not limited to stipends, comma, of all town employees appointed by the town manager within the limits established by existing appropriations, period. Notwithstanding, comma, any increase for any town employee in compensation or stipends exceeding 10% in any fiscal year shall require approval by the town council, period. And discussion. Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, Bill Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Marilyn Richards,
Yes.
Ralph Page,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes.
Tom Christensen.
Yes.
Okay.
Larry, real quick, that is going to be the new Article 3, Section 2, number 5, correct?
Correct the window.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, we have another submission by Mr. Ralph Page that was received in August, actually August 18th. I don't know if everyone has it. Shall I read it?
Is that the E-code one, Larry?
E-code.
E-codification,
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes.
don't have it.
What was the date again?
August 18th, 2020.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it in an email.
And Ralph, at the end, you have Article 2, Section 6, and that's under town bylaws. And the wording you are suggesting would read, the recodification of all town bylaws, along with any amendments to the bylaws proposed at the same time, may be voted on a single subject being proposed, period. The recodification and amendments will not require the use of strikeout type, comma, brackets, or underscoring. And that is the, after paragraph 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So Larry, what I'm looking at doing
Yes,
is
sir.
trying to put language into the charter, which allows us to, when we look at all the general bylaws at once and make multiple changes,
Mhm.
that we don't have to submit each change individually. We can do it as a whole. It's happened very rarely. I believe Maryland was present years ago when the zoning bylaws were
Right.
done. And I honestly believe once this is done, and E-code's in, we probably won't do it again for 50 years or more. But it's going to simplify the process for us doing the codification rather than having to go through and list every single thing that we've changed, which there's well over 400 changes.
And that's conservative.
Yeah, right. It's not
We're
including
living that one.
the wholesale changes, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Ralph, you have that going after the fourth paragraph. But what about the second paragraph of section 6?
It can go wherever this committee chooses to put it. I think it was supposed to be after the third paragraph, where it states any bylaw which amends or repeals a portion of any town bylaw shall set out in full the portion to be so amended or repealed by the use of strikeout type brackets or underscoring. I was trying to get it somewhere in that area to say, notwithstanding a codification can be done all at once.
But you're using the word, the recodification of all town bylaws. And when you use the word all, so what happens if you decide instead of 10 sections of the general bylaws, you're only going to do 8? You still then have to go back under the existing wording of the charter.
Yes.
Okay. And you're okay with that?
I was okay with it because I think once we do this, any updates that we do are going to be sent in as soon as the update's voted on.
It'll be a lot easier.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't want to, you know how you get a simple document and you can have it a clean copy, or you can have it with redlining to show all the changes. What you're saying, we don't need that redlining?
That's what I'm asking, is that the strikeout or the redlining, what we're going to do is submit a whole breakdown of all the changes we're making all at once and saying these are all the changes from the original document.
But how will the citizen know what the changes are?
Jeannie, help me here. We're going through everything.
So Mr. Chair,
Yes, Tom.
Mr. Henry is keeping a list of any major alterations to the bylaw. So almost every page would have red on it because the word he is splattered across the entire thing, which obviously is out of date. So that gets changed throughout the entire document. Board of Selectmen, I mean, there's a million things that are going to get changed. But those things are sort of not major changes. The ones that are major are going to be submitted to town council at a town meeting so that everyone can have an idea of what kind of changes we're getting at here. It's not, but to Ralph's point, it's not a question of not being transparent. It's more to ease this transition because, like he said, I think 400 is a really small number that he mentioned for the amount of changes that there is going to be to the bylaws.
But I'm a skeptical citizen.
Yeah, you are.
And I want to know, like, when we submit our recommendations, I plan on, after we all review it and say it's okay, presenting a red line version and a clean copy version. So not just the citizens can see the changes, but the town councils can see the changes clearly. Otherwise, wouldn't you have to go word by word on the old charter versus the recommendation?
So all those changes will be listed
How?
in a singular document.
Right.
You mean it'll say, see Article 1, Section 2, we've changed and added this wording, or something like that?
Correct. That's my understanding. I think Pat has been diligently and probably with a lot of Jeannie's help, noting all the changes that we've been making to the bylaw based on town department or department heads, all the suggestions throughout this entire process. The things that are deemed to have been small, as in changing he to there, aren't really, that's sort of a wholesale change. But if we're changing serious language of a bylaw, that will be listed and spoken about in a public meeting.
Yes, Jeannie.
We were told by the town attorney that even changing he to they or whatever is amending a bylaw.
Correct.
So I think the keyword is recodification. We were very careful the past year not to majorly change, not to majorly amend any bylaw, like the purpose of it or the usage of it, but just to update things, to make things more clear. It's like a review and an updating.
But Tom, in your process, you've done substantive changes.
Of course, we've
Yes.
added
Yeah.
sections, we've deleted sections.
Those will all be listed. Any
Right.
substantial change?
Listed separately from looking at the general bylaws.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be a whole document submitted.
That's my point. In the charter, when it speaks about that strikeouts or redlining or something, so you present, and let's just use what we just voted on. If we merely submit, here's the old charter, and we suggest in Article, whatever this is, Article 3, Section 2, the new wording on the compensation cap during the fiscal year. Someone has to look at the wording we have on this 2-page document and then look at the charter and see how it fits, rather than having the new words printed in red or underlined so they have it right in front of them, and they being even town councilors, so you don't have to look between two documents. So my question is, by your suggestion, I'm not criticizing you, you are saying eliminate that redlining or underlining, and if we're going to do a recodification, which will include substantive changes, how will we know, other than, now we look at the second piece of paper.
So I understand what you're saying, Larry. So let's go back to Section 6, the first paragraph.
Okay.
Any bylaw change can only be on a single subject.
Okay.
So let's say we change in the zoning bylaw a specific word under special permits. That has to be done separately. Separate public hearing, separate meeting, separate proposal. Every single change is considered a separate item in all of the general bylaws, all of the zoning bylaws.
Right.
So this would mean, I use 400, it's probably 1,000 or more changes. We want to try and be allowed to do this and do all these multiple changes at one time. Not that we want to hide anything. So Pat Henry's going to print up a document of any amendments that are going to happen. And then what I'm saying is, instead of, hey, we're just going to change Board of Selectmen to Town Council.
Right.
That's just a general, that'll be listed, general changes. Everything else is going to be in a document form saying, we're taking this and changing it to that. But we're going to be able to do it all as one vote instead of 1,000 different votes and 1,000 different meetings.
I understand all that.
Ralph's talking about something completely different.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
But the question becomes, first of all, where do you define the word recodification? What does that mean?
Digitalizing.
The format too.
So is it or is it just the codification?
Well, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
You're codifying.
I can see someone ripping that apart. Yes, Marilyn.
You know, I know it's not apples and apples, but when we did the 1991 revision of the zoning bylaw, 15 copies of the new bylaw were created and distributed to 15 shakers and movers in the town. And those 15 individuals reviewed the document and then reported on it at town meeting. So, I mean, and I know that's town meeting, and these were honorable people, and it worked well. It, you know, it passed and it should pass. I know what we're struggling with here. I just, if it passes the council and goes to the ballot, most people, once it gets to the ballot, you know, they've either done their homework or they don't care. So it has to be what comes to the council. Maybe if the committee did something like that and had, you know, individuals work on it and make a presentation at the council meeting. I don't know if that would help, but that's how it worked with the 1991 revision. And it was the whole zoning bylaw, and it was a total format change.
And that's what
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. What I'm saying is, one, even if you approve this wording, why wouldn't you have the changes take the old general bylaws or the old charter and put in the changes where they want to be inserted and either highlight them, redline them, bracket them, so it's crystal clear rather than having two documents.
Tom, you're going to answer the same way I am, aren't you?
Every change has a bracket at the end of that paragraph that says amended during codification.
Say that again, the end time.
So every time there's a change,
Yes.
it's noted that particular section or paragraph was amended during codification. So it is documented in the full new document that this section was changed from the previous bylaw.
But that's wording you would put in when it's printed after the approval.
It's already there.
Yeah.
Well, that's because we're going.
How do you know what is being changed?
Yeah.
When you do that bracket, Tom, that you're talking about, how do you know what the change was?
Well, you just have to compare the documents, I suppose.
Well, that's what I think Larry's getting to. He doesn't want to have two documents in your hand. He wants one document with all the information in that one document. And I agree with that, rather than have two documents.
So Larry, what you're thinking is, like with the charter, you're going to be able to take the old charter. We're only changing a few words. The codification isn't that. It's changing locations. It's changing, let's say, where the town departments are listed. So you can't compare exactly one document to another. So the new E-code lists in the back, literally where, let's say, Article 3, Section 1, where it was originally found, where the new location is,
Right.
and then if it was amended or not.
Right. But don't you think it would be clearer if you had, and we're going to use the charter, the section we just voted on the compensation, if all the changes were throughout the document and highlighted somehow, so anyone can see how we want to change it now, rather than going either to a back index or a different document that says, look, we're changing Article 3, Section 5, subsection 6, and we're going to insert the words about capping the compensation. I'm just looking for, I find that easier in my business when I'm comparing a document to an old document, and that happens quite often where someone will change wording, and on the margin, there'll be either an arrow, it goes to where the word is changed, and so much easier that way, rather than having a separate document. All right, Jeff, got you. Well, let's think of this, about this, and we'll come back to this next week.
So I have a question for Jeannie.
Yes.
Is there any way we can let Larry into the paginated version so that he can view what we're talking about in comparison?
Yeah, 480 pages.
Yeah.
Paginated
Well,
version.
don't send me all 80 pages.
Well, it's all online.
80.
No, it's on. It's,
Paginated version.
Send it to me, I'll look. Maybe I'm misconstruing what you're planning to do.
I mean, is that
And
possible?
what we should do here. So for next meeting, Dr. Mackey, January 12th, 4:30. Everyone good with that? I presume silence. Okay, it's good. I'm going to contact Kathy Hill. Either she's going to give us wording or she may come in. We're going to get back on this issue as well. And then we should talk about, before I start to put for everyone in some sort of format, are we satisfied with what we've done to this point? And we should put together all of our recommendations. I don't know what else we have left to do.
Well, Larry, once all the recommendations are put together, is that going to be something that we're going to take a few minutes and go through just to make sure that everything that's in there,
I'm hoping to take a couple of meetings to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
or
I'm not God. It's going to take.
Dispel that rumor.
It's going to take comparing my my horrible handwriting with your minutes you've kept.
Right.
Try and put it all together, and then each of you has to be a proofreader.
Right.
perfect.
And then see, that's what I suggest doing. And then the way we're going, we're going to meet our deadline of March.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
Good.
there was some doubters 4 or
I
5 months.
never had a doubt.
No.
No one in this committee had a doubt. All right. So hearing that none, our next meeting is January 12th, 4:30. Any other urgent business? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
By Ralph,
Second.
second by Jeff. All those in favor, Bill Fonseca,
Yes.
Larry Levine, yes. Marilyn Richards,
Yes.
Ralph Page,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Jeff Bosworth,
Yes.
Tom Christensen.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Stay well, everyone.
Hey, bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.